All right, well, this is our last formal class, and it's going to be a less than 45 minutes, hopefully. And then after that, we'll do the flag lowering. We can actually try to speed things up a little bit so we can have pizza. I give a little extra time to get out of our outfits here. So this is a little bit about what is Camp Constitution. There are a lot of people that are new to us, and they think we might just be a camp, one year a week camp, one camp a year camp program. So we're much more than that. And by the way, I've had two people approach me, one gentleman from Michigan, Ohio, Michigan, and a couple from Texas that drove all the way up here. And they're hoping to start weekend camps like ours. And whatever you need, whatever help you need, we're going to give it to you. And it's something that we've wanted to do for a long time. So anyway, Camp Constitution was founded back in 2009. And I am one of the co-founders, Mr. Charlie Everett, who was here for a couple of days with his wife. He lives in North Carolina, and he used to live in Ringe, New Hampshire. So that's, is this mic on? No. Where's the, oh, this is why Vivek's guy didn't want this. There we go. All right, thank you. You can edit that out. Why don't you edit? Let me start from scratch. Why don't you edit that? Let me start beginning. So anyway. All right. So Camp Constitution founded in 2009, and it's a New Hampshire-based charitable trust. That's how we're organized legally. We used to be just an unincorporated organization, but we had to change that as time went on. I am the co-founder. Mr. Charlie Everett and Mrs. Ruth Harper are the other two co-founders. And Mrs. Harper, this is the first year she couldn't attend. She had some health issues. And Mr. Everett, he's the one that if you sign up for camp, most likely you're going to deal with him. And he was here with his wife for a few days. Our very first camp was held in 2009. And we had, I think, Mr. Tregenza, about 60 people, 65 people. And we had families from Michigan, Pennsylvania, Virginia, New England, New Jersey, Florida, California, and even Great Britain, you know. A family camp for all ages and unaccompanied teenagers from 13 to 17. And last year's camp, we had over 140 people. During the lockdown 2020, we had our biggest, at that point, it was our biggest turnout. It was interesting. We made a contract for this camp in 19, and my daughter Emily, where's Emily? She accompanied me, and we were looking at camps, and we went up to one driveway, and she said, "No, Dad, we haven't even seen it, no." And she was right, it was not, but she came here, she saw, and it was Mr. Norman Tregenza that recommended the place. Said, "Yeah, let me check it out. I know it exists, but I've never been on the premises." And we saw the Gaga pit. I said, "Okay, it's a done deal. We got it. We're here." The contract initially called for 75 people. And I thought we can get more than that, but it's a new venue, new week, and so it's hard to get, people are used to coming at a certain time. And then COVID hit, and they asked if we would cancel. They said, "It's okay if you cancel, you get a full refund for your deposit." He said, "But we won't hold you to the contractual numbers. So if you have 5 people," I said, "We'll have 5 people. We're not going to cancel." And then June rolled around, and New Hampshire wasn't as bad as most of the New England states when it comes to the lockdown. And in June, Mr. Lee called me, and he said, "What would be a knockout factor?" I said, "Masks. There's no way we're going to walk around with masks all day long. Not going to happen. People want to wear masks, let them wear them. We're not wearing them." And then he said, "What if we had groups of 50, but they couldn't really communicate with each other? In other words, you're like, you guys here and you guys here." I said, that can't work. I said, because these folks know each other. They come here to see each other. You can't, like an iron curtain. He said, "Yeah, that won't work." But because we're a family camp and most of you stay in rooms with your families, we were able to fall under that ridiculous, and we had a great camp. It was the biggest turnout we ever had. So we weren't worried about getting 75. We had too many people. We were full. And it was great. And those of you who were here, it was like a week of normalcy in a world full of insanity, as Mr. Newman said recently. Let's see, and then we started the Patriot Camp in 2014. So we say, hey, we're a family camp, we get youngsters, but there wasn't a program for them. And thanks to Mrs. Roberta Stewart and Kathy Mickle, and then Mrs. Kraft a year or so later took it over. And so we have a great program for their ages. And there's our flyer. And you remember when Joe Biden said the Second Amendment doesn't give you the right to own a cannon? Wrong. We own a cannon now. Not that one. I think the one we got is enough to deal with. This one's a little too big. But that's the promotional flyers that we put out. And Mr. Affleck does the camp pamphlets and the promotional flyers for us. And that was 21 camp. And you see how many people there? You can't even see the cannons. We got them covered, right? And that was last year's because it was raining out. And this year was raining too. So I'm going to have to add this year's photo to that. We have something called Camp Constitution Press. So what started is, a friend of mine, you see from Farm Board of Financier, he asked me if I would get a copy of that. It was a book. It was a man's, Frank Vanderlip's autobiography that was serialized in the Saturday Evening Post back in the 30s. And he was an attendee at the meeting at Jekyll Island, and he wrote a book about it. And he admitted that it was a conspiracy. It wasn't a theory. Of course, that was before the time conspiracy theories, the term was coined. And it took me about 3 years, and I found a friend of mine not only gave me the magazine, but he gave me the book. And that was our first thing we published, and we've been publishing things, not a whole lot, but right along. And you see some of the items we have on the table. And some things put in back in print, in some cases over 100 years. One of the things we put back in print was a 1928 U.S. Army manual. It was a history book that said, we're a republic and democracy leads to communism. And Franklin Roosevelt and his New Deal Democrats did their best to destroy every single copy, but some survived, and we put it back in print. And this was some of our junior campers from, they're now collecting Social Security. It was a long time ago here, but this was at our camp in Pittsfield, I think, and I've got to add some of the other pictures we have there. So this was Singing Hills. This is Singing Hills, that our new home. And these are some of our illustrious instructors, and we're so blessed. We have such great talent. People say, how do you find these people? I said, God brings them to us. That's how it happens. They don't call it. The young lady on the top right, she was flying in from Florida. She lives in Salem, New Hampshire. She was at the ladies' retreat. She's the youngest elected official in the country. Hopefully next year she'll still be the youngest elected official, so we can still bring her back and have that title. But she was very motivational. I mean, she actually ran when she filed for papers when she was 17, and she turned 18 during the campaign. And we know a gentleman on the top left and a lady on the right, top right. We hope to get her back. She had some business issues, but we stay in touch. She's a Debbie Bacciacalupi. I can even pronounce her name, and I think I can spell it if I think about it. And there's Mrs. Catherine White. Mrs. White, you've been coming here since what, 15 maybe?
Something like that.
Well, yeah. And I think I forget where we met at a Tea Party rally, or did we meet in jail? Then I don't remember. No, I'm kidding about the jail part. And there's Mr. Vince Ellison. We want to get him here in person, and Reverend Kraft and I are going to head down to Lynchburg, Virginia, and we're going to bring Emily back to school to move her in, and he said he'd love to meet with us, so we'd love to have someone like him here for the whole week. He's just an incredible man. So these are some of the classes, and these are some of the things, if you plan to have your own camp, these are some of the suggestions. America's Godly Heritage. U.S. and state constitutions. Yes, states have constitutions. Did you know that? And some of them predate the U.S. Constitution, including the New Hampshire and Massachusetts constitutions. And of course, you come from the Constitution state, don't you, right? Exposing Agenda 21 in the United Nations. Morality and freedom, which of course are essential. The Midnight Ride of Paul Revere. Economics. What is money? By the way, all of you got that What is Money reprint in your bag. You might find some typos. It's not because we can't type very well, but when you use Dragon software and send the printer the wrong version, that's what happens. So there's a few areas and we know they're there, but what is money? And it's a very important what money is, and creationism versus evolution, the Council on Foreign Relations, and we use the term conspiracy has come up be replaced by the deep state. So it's fashionable now. You can say the deep state. If you say a conspiracy, the right to keep and bear arms, leadership. That's a very important thing too. Leadership, how to be a constitutional activist. And I like to think most people in this room are already, and you young folks will be as... and so every now and then people ask me, what should I do? What do you want me to do? What do you recommend? And I tell them first, as God leads you. I can give you 10 things, I can recommend 10 things, but it may not be what God wants you to do. I said, pray on it. And I'm sure that God is going to find whatever ministry He wants you in is where you'll be. How to be a constitutional activist. And we can have so much fun with that. You know, when you bump into elected officials, you can embarrass them because most of them don't even know a constitution from a fishing license. Constitutional state militias versus National Guard, which is a very important issue. Timeline of U.S. history. You know something, to me, the timelines are so important because I'll ask people, did George Washington know Abraham Lincoln? Yeah, they were best friends. You know, and I think it's just like when I started reading the Bible as a new believer, it was easy for me to say, well, did Moses, and when was he around? Did he know, was he around the same time Jesus was? And so it helped me understand history better if I can put it in some kind of timeline perspective. It's always very helpful to me. These are some of our junior campers. Now they're all on Social Security, I think. Hey, you recognize anybody there? Well, of course, we recognize...
Mrs. Wilder.
Yeah, we recognize her, but I think we got some of Reverend Kraft and Mrs. Kraft's children and grandchildren in there, too. Okay, so one of our instructors was the late Sam Blumenfeld. And how many people homeschool in here? How many people were familiar with him before you heard about it from us? A few. Sam was an international treasure, and he was one of the first to realize that not only did we have a reading problem, but it was deliberate. A lot of people didn't want to hear that back in the 60s. Oh, no, it's just, they make mistakes, it's just bad policy, but they'll get it right. He used to work for Grosset and Dunlop, the publishing company that did the Hardy Boy books, the Nancy Drew. And he published a book he wasn't supposed to. It was a Max Eastman book exposing socialism, and they fired him. But he did much better things than that. And he was an instructor. He loved Camp Constitution. He thought it was just a wonderful thing. And he knew that we would be good stewards of his material. So when he passed, even prior to his passing, we took possession of 200 legal-sized boxes, and I don't know how many bags of things, and we went through it. He even found his mother's wedding ring. We found recordings of his mother and father that his niece never heard, and we were able to, thanks to Mr. Affleck, digitize it. And when we presented to her, she cried. She said, I never heard their voices. So, since I think we created that in 2016, and we've got literally millions and millions of views all over the world, from the kingdom of, somebody that's a royal member of the kingdom of Bahrain. I said, where in the world is that? Oh, it's a little north of China. Mainly in the United States. But we have now armies. You know, an army is a division is about 20,000 people, right? Can you imagine thousands of literate people in this country that are activists? I mean, people who know how to read properly through the alpha phonics. And so we have an international presence now too, because a gentleman reached out to me. God knows Matza Rovaza, I think. He's in Zimbabwe, in the capital. You see that classroom? Looks kind of poor, doesn't it? Yeah. You don't see anything on the walls, no fish tanks, nothing hanging down. But look at the children. Look how they're dressed. They're all dressed nicely. So this gentleman started a school, the Nottingham School, and he asked if we would send some of the alpha phonics. They were downloading and printing it out. I said, we'll love to. I said, could you just send us some videos or pictures of the children using it? And they used the term, now English is the official language in Zimbabwe. They call it the Blumenfeld approach. And it's so delightful to see these young children using Sam Blumenfeld's alpha phonics to read. And he's introducing it to other schools around his region, and they're being very well received. And just recently he reached out and he said that he bought a parcel of land, and he's going to build another school, and he's going to name it after Samuel Blumenfeld. And he said, I want you at the opening. said, Rev, we get a road trip. And I can't fly, I can't drive so we have to fly. So we'll, God willing, we'll make that happen. And I hope we get Mr. Newman there too, Alex Newman with his the report on it. Some of our year-round activity, a YouTube channel, but maybe thanks to Pastor Whitney, we may lose it. How dare you criticize the CDC? We uploaded a video earlier this week, and it was a copyright, no, not copyright, but not approved content. Yeah, their standards. So we're shut out for a week. One time we had you get 3 strikes, you lose your channel. So I was downloading some of the stuff I didn't want to lose. We have like 1,200 videos on it. A lot of our classes since I think 2011 and on. And some of them, like Professor Soon's first class, I think we got over like 200,000 views. And we used to get 60, 70,000 views a week, and then they started, what's that term, a shadow ban? Yeah. And we were making a little bit of money, and then they said, oh, no more money. They demonetized us, right? Demonetized us. Yeah, you get to spell demon, right? You say that. We have a Facebook page, and I know if you're not on Facebook, please don't go on Facebook just to get on our Facebook page. But if you are and you're not using it, I would suggest post something to make it look really viable, you know. Gab and MeWe and a few other. We also have we have a radio show, and we were given something called Catching Fire News. This is a media format that was formerly it was controlled by Tom DeWeese of the American Policy Center, and his organization is being merged with CFACT. And Professor Soon, what does CFACT stand for? CFACT, something for construction. Future. It's a great organization. So he's merging with them, and he said, would you want this format? I said, I hate to say no to anything, usually if it's like this, but we need a producer. So we're going to, and they gave us like 10,000 emails or something crazy like that. So hopefully we'll be able to get that up and running, and hopefully some of you may even want to have your own show on Catching Fire News. How many people do podcasts? Podcast or do videos or post things? A few of you do, yeah. We need to have more. So you young voices need to be heard. So we've had a radio show I think since 16 on our shortwave station, which I'm friends with the owner, WBCQ The Planet, and then we put the show on various other platforms, Spotify, Amazon, and about a half a dozen others. And we also put some classic presentations on this, so there's a lot of great information. Information tables at various venues, homeschool shows. I think, how many people met us at a homeschool show? Or met us through somebody who met us at a homeschool show? Yeah. And sometimes we'll meet somebody and 5 years later they'll come to the camp. You know, so I know Mr. Villaniscus used to do a show, and his son used to do a show in New Jersey. They don't host the shows anymore. And there was 2 families that came in 2020. How'd you hear about us? Oh, I saw your table back in 13 and 14. My children they were too little then. So we do parade floats. We had a float in the St. Patrick's Day parade in Boston last year, and we had the cannons, and we were so well received. People, it was thousands of people at this parade, right in Boston. USA, USA, shoot that cannon, shoot those cannons. It was a lot of fun. And we also were in one in my hometown in Alton this past summer, last year I mean, and we won. We came in first place, and we had Mr. Heath and Mrs. Heath were there. They showed up unexpectedly. We put them on my wife. We had the cutouts on the trailer, and we were passing out constitutions. And the judges, I said, I can't give you guys any because you think I'm bribing you. So we won $150 at first place, bragging rights, right? We have a website, blog, and I hope more people would go to it, read it, and share it, and even consider writing for it. And if you already write something else and say, hey, would you like to share the content? So we have a number of people that give us permission to repost. The American Minute is one of them. Bill Federer has given us permission to repost some of his things. If you want to write, you don't have to log in. Just email me something in a Word document or just in an email with a few photos if you have photos. What about your experience here? We're looking for testimonials, because when people want to go website, oh, they say it's a great thing. How do we know? So then they see the testimonials from people. So that'd be a big help. I already mentioned the St. Louis Archives. I mentioned the press already. Now there's the parade float. There's Mr. Heath right there with his musket. And there's my wife with holding up thumbs up if you love the Constitution. That was a fun day. That was a good fun day. We also we sponsor 2 miles of highway in my town of Alton, and we do 2 cleanups, and we get these signs on two south, north and south. And what about if we did this in your town? You just have to do depends 2 cleanups. You know, it's great. It's great. Good exercise, and actually it shows you. One of the things I've observed that many people on the left do not respect private property, nor they do respect public property. But I notice that people who respect private property respect public property. For example, you have a Tea Party rally or a homeschool event. In the aftermath, it looks pretty clean. Have an Earth Day concert or an Antifa peaceful protest, doesn't look so clean afterwards, right? So we used to do free market cleanups in the town of Dedham. None of the greenies would show up. The oldest canal in the country, we would keep, it's called Mother Brook, and we would do cleanups and have my children out and some friends out. Not one greenie showed up, because most of them really aren't interested in the environment. That's why these cities where they live are so dirty, if they're really interested in things. You see a picture of Alan, Mr. Belanger. He was at the homeschool show last year in Massachusetts, and we had Mrs. Kraft for the first time. So between Mrs. Kraft and Mr. Belanger, that table was the busiest table. It was great. Mrs. Kraft couldn't make it this year. I had to do it all by myself, but I managed. I still had a good time. All right, so we have a speakers bureau, and we're bringing in, I'll mention some of the people, but we're bringing in a gentleman from South Africa who he wrote a book called Shooting Back. His name is Pastor Charles van Week. Back in the mid-90s, he was in his church when some communists came in with AKs, killed about 11 people, wounded many, many more, and all he had was a sub-nose 38, and he was able to save the rest of the people. And talk about a heart of Christian. They actually arrested these people because even though they were communists in the communist country, it was not authorized. So they arrested them, put them in jail. He went to jail and witnessed to them and prayed over them. That's quite a Christian testimony. So he's going to be speaking at our Lane House in Lexington, and 2 places in Lexington, 2 places in New Hampshire, and two or three places in Maine. And that's just some of the things we do. We testify before state legislators on occasions. Camp Constitution News, that's generally me with a video camera, in this case, Mert with a camera. But you could also be part of Camp Constitution News or media by bringing your cell phone and go to an event and report on it. Videotape it. Upload it to our YouTube channel or our Rumble page and write an article about it. Simple as that. And by the way, I like to record stuff because I like to think we're making history here. And if you don't record history, who remembers it, right? We have a place, I'll show you a picture of it, where the Crafts live. It's a learning center. It's a house, a beautiful carriage house. And we're the trustees of it. And I think we are very good stewards of what the 2 people, Mr. and Mrs. Lane, and they are deceased, but their legacy, they're our biggest contributor to our camp. And I'm sure they're smiling down from heaven because of what we're doing. And we started a ladies group and a ladies spring retreat, and that was was my wife and Roberta Stewart and some others. And we need help because we had a nice turnout. I think this year we did it here. I don't know where it's going to be taking place next year. We do special projects. I want to mention how I met Willie Soon, although I met him briefly in New York City at an event, but. He was asked to speak to a group in was it Arizona or Nevada back in 16? Was it 16 in November? And he couldn't make it. So Alex Newman called me. He says, Hal, he said, can you get someone to videotape Willie soon? I said, we can do that. Yeah, sure. And next thing you know, I get a call from G. Edward Griffin, whom I've known for many, many years. And he said, well, there's $500 in the budget. I would have done it for nothing, but okay. I was out of a job in those days, so yeah. And so I met Willie. I had a friend hosted at his condo complex. They wanted an audience, so we had about 10 or 15 people. They took out Willie to a restaurant. We were going to go to a moderately priced restaurant. Couldn't find it. We went to a very expensive, and this guy likes his steak. And so I invited him, and that's how we got. And so that special project to videotape this is how we got Willie soon, and how we got Debbie Bacigalupi, because she was involved in that as well. And I think Willie came the first year with his family and his mother-in-law too. And we offered him an honorarium. He refused it. I said, I'm having too much fun. So that was great. We did some work for Eagle Forum, distributing books for them. We did some work for the National Association for Gun Rights. That was great. They just wanted me to take pictures of a guy delivering petitions. And the guy was the vice president, and he had some good video. And when you go to a State House event, and there's more of us on the other side, and then the result of that, they came up with this constitutional carry in New Hampshire. That was a very, very interesting day. Yeah. And let's see. We had a press conference in Maine back in also 16. The former governor got in a little trouble. He said some things he shouldn't have said. Rev heard about it down in New Jersey, and that's when he was living in New Jersey, of course. And he wrote a letter to him. Basically, hey, look, you shouldn't have said what you said, but your policies are correct. I said, Rev, send me a copy of the letter. I'll have it on his desk tomorrow. I have friends that live in the area. So I said, tell you what, come to think of it, why don't you come on up? We'll have a press conference at the State House. I said, no one's going to show up, but we'll have a lot of fun, good fellowship. And at that time, I had a friend that used to be a conductor on Amtrak, so we got free rides from New York to Boston. He retired without my permission, by the way. So, well, we get up to Maine, and on the drive up, I get a call. He said, Hal, you made the Bangor Daily News. You made the Portland Press Herald. You made this. Oh my goodness. We get to the place, and we have to go through the security. They're taking pictures of us taking our belts off. We had more media than I've seen up to that point. And Rev gets up there and he says, some of you, they're all liberal reporters mostly, he said, some of you have never been to a church. He said, this is a church. If you don't like it, there's the door. Get up and leave. That was a lot of fun. And when Rev moved up to Massachusetts, we went to all these Open Up Massachusetts rallies, during the lockdown. I pick him up at the house. I say, Edith, you may have to bail us out. We get into arguments with Black Lives Matter and Antifa, which, by the way, it's pointless. When they come to these events, they're not even supposed to engage. They look straight ahead. They won't engage you. So, but we had a lot of fun, and not only was it fun, but it was very important. Camp Constitution, we have YouTube, Rumble, and BitChute. Come on there. Our famous or infamous quiz that we did. There is Mr. Affleck with one of his sons, and a young lady visiting the table. This was down in Pennsylvania. This is some of the stats we've had. Over 23 is 750,000 views, hundreds of Sam's speeches and audio and video. So just a lot of materials on this. And if you love history, even if you're not a homeschooler or educator, there's so much on there. Sam just knew so many people, and I can. So here's a picture of the young students in Zimbabwe with our alphaphonics. I thought that was pretty cool. And these are just some of our speakers that we have available. You see that young lady on the right, Catherine White, Tom DeWeese, Earl Wallace, Duke Pesta, yours truly. And that's some of the items. You see the book in the middle, Color, Communism, and Common Sense? We republished that in 2015 when Reverend Kraft, he saw it in my library in my old house in West Roxbury. He read it, and he said, we got to put this back in print. We did. And it wasn't really moving much. In 2020, we must have sold about 400 copies all over the country. And during the riots, people wanted to figure out what's going on. And in fact, Rev did a video on it, and as a result of the video, a pastor in Florida saw it, reached out to us, and he and Edith have been going down there for the last 4 years, several times a year. And so it's just a great, one thing leads to another. Of course, all of you know, well, maybe you know about our Supreme Court case. That was the article on the right was a front page. Supreme spanking, 9-0. And there's yours truly on the right. I think that was Fox News. I was also interviewed on ABC, NBC, CBS, Newsmax, and many, many others. I think we got a lot of media here today. Fox News was here, NBC. And wouldn't it be beautiful if you see Fox News tonight, there's Ramaswamy, and there's the Christian flag behind him? Wouldn't that be beautiful? And by the way, some of you who had come since our orientation, this is the flag we flew over City Hall Plaza in August of, and it was such a beautiful sight as the flag was coming up. Two of our campers played Amazing Grace on trumpet, the Soon Brothers, and we lowered the flag to Battle Hymn of the Republic, sung by Jonathan Alexander, who emceed the program. And then we have a friend who's a Christian recording artist, young Ben Lane, and we sang God Bless America, and we closed it out. It was a very, very great time. This was, some of you remember Lord Monckton. He hadn't been here since the lockdown, but there was a left-wing group that went after the Christian vacation camp where kids are taught by notorious climate science deniers. Boo, hiss, you're a bad man. We had a lot of fun with that one. In one article, they called him the creepiest counselor. And so we had a little presentation, He said, who thinks he's the creepiest counselor? And Lord Martin got up, and we all said, huzzah, and we sent it to them. We emailed a link to it. Yeah, they didn't get back to us, There we are in front of the Supreme Court for the rally, and not all of us, but a lot of us. And what's great is there were some people we didn't even know that came all the way from California or Texas. We had a congresswoman, Victoria. Yeah, it was great. It was just a wonderful, wonderful time. There's a picture of the Lane House. It's a beautiful carriage house. And if you're in the area and you want to get a tour of Lexington and Concord, or maybe the Plymouth, the beautiful Forefathers Monument, and this was our July 4th. And July 4th, 2020. Now we have them at my place, where we can actually fire the cannons. We can't do it there. Like we'd be put in jail overnight. We'd have the SWAT team, probably invading us. But we had about 50 or 60 people. And Lexington is particularly ridiculous. They were the most cowardly people I think I've ever seen in my life. We're cutting the grass, right, Rev? Yeah. And we're cutting the grass in the middle of the yard, and people on the sidewalk will cross the street because we weren't wearing masks. I call that socialist distancing, when socialists keep away from us. But it was a little beacon of sanity in a very insane time. And then we have special flyers. There's one of the don't ban the bag the ban. And I got a call from a guy in Maryland. He said, I'm passing out, I'm in a supermarket passing out your flyers. I said, what flyer? And he mentioned this one. He just happened to have found him on the internet. What's that? I know you do. Absolutely, yeah. So that was the spring fling. That was this year. We haven't set a date for next year, but it should be about the same time frame. And these were the two guests. Lady on the left was able to make it. Lady on the right, she's become a good friend of mine, Julie Wilkinson. She was in the movie Unplanned. She played the abortion nurse in the movie. And she actually was an abortion nurse. And she come to have a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. And she works with Abby Johnson, part of it, and they have a movement of former abortion. And who's Steve? Steve, your mom works with Abby, right? Where is he? Oh, did he leave? There he is. Yeah, your mom works with. Yeah. Do you know Julie? Yeah, great lady. And so I would kind of skip that because I did that. Oh yeah, see all the fun they have shooting, and they had a great time, arts and crafts, and really good stuff. Are we making a difference? Yeah. I'd like to think so. Since our founding, I think I have to add 5,000 more to that. I didn't put my comma. I know. Over 30,000 copies distributed, but it's not just distributing. I mean, I could rent a plane and dump 1 million copies over the countryside. What good would it do? But it's the instruction we've given. How many people have been influenced by our instruction? Thousands. It's really hard to say how many between our YouTube channels and our outreach events and our camp. We made a direct impact on hundreds of young people and their families, including this guy right here, and my family. We helped to stop Agenda 21 policies in New Hampshire and Maine, and in some cases it happened fast. In Rindge, New Hampshire, where we used to have a camp, it happened so quick. It happened, and it was education and then action. And it was really fun because they were coming after me, the lefties. And some of the lefties actually moved out of Rindge after the election of, I think it was 2012. We distributed every town in New Hampshire, every town selectman got information on that subject and how it impacts. So when they say, oh, I don't know anything about it, well, you're lying, because you were emailed it and you were hand delivered, or it was in your box at the town hall. Article 5 convention is an attempt to rewrite our Constitution, and we played a key role in stopping that, where we become like one of the opposition. But every now and then we'll win people over. And I had a guy text me and he said, Hal, I said, I used to come after you a lot. He said, but you maintained your character, and he said, I have a lot of respect for you, and I don't know he's not sure where he stands now. He's got second thoughts. Always take the moral high ground. Don't go down to their level. You don't have to get angry and do ridiculous things like accuse people of bribing like they accuse me, or threaten to take me out. Imagine that, nice guy like me, they want to take me out. I don't recommend that too much, right, Rev? Not that I'm the baddest dude in the world. We even helped to expose Common Core in the inner cities. YouTube channel, okay, we have 1.5 million views, which is not a whole lot, but for a little bitty group like us, it's a lot. So we're making a difference. Some Sam Blumenfeld archives are being utilized by people all over the world. Our presence at home schools and other venues help to bring an understanding to attendees on a variety of issues: Common Core, climate change hoax, dangers of Article 5 Convention, the United Nations, and a better understanding of the U.S. Constitution. What's wrong with that? As they said in the musical Happiest Millionaire, right? Anybody see that Happiest Millionaire? All right, what's wrong with that? God, how did it go? How does the song go? America, God, America, and the Bible. What's wrong with that? Yeah. And what can you do? Promote the camp program. It would be nice. It's like a good problem to have is when you have not enough seats at a speech instead of too many seats that are empty. It would be nice by May 1st that, sorry, but the camp is full. But we're working on a second week, So help promote the camp program. Become a camp sponsor. So if you participate in our camp, we automatically, if you have a nonprofit or a business, you can put your business on our website. But we have people from anywhere between $100 a year to whatever they give. Offer your talent, time, and treasure. Volunteer at camp, of course you're here. What about hosting a speaker? And of course we had an all-day camp in Connecticut, or almost 9 to 2. We do that up in Maine as well. We've done it in New York. So maybe something like that we can consider doing. And attend Camp Constitution. I like this one, Pulling for God and America. Support us financially. We have PayPal. People can do monthly donations through PayPal, and there's some of our sponsors over the years. And let's keep the campfires going. And with that, we have a flag lowering, and we come back for our closing ceremonies. Thank you, and God bless you.